Wild. I had a question come in today about dealing with documents on the good old iPad. So here's a little bit of video on how to do that. The particular question was, how do I deal with PDFs and PowerPoint presentations, and how do I get them onto my iPad? So I'm going to talk about kind of the native use of those documents on what's available here without having a special file manager. And I'll also go over kind of if you had one. Wait, what does that mean? So on your Windows or Mac, you have what's called a folder-based file system, right? Hopefully you can see that. A bunch of folders and a bunch of files, and I'm in the habit normally of browsing to a folder and a file. Well, the iPad is actually far more intuitive. And I don't say that just because I'm an Apple fanboy. But if you think about it, you really don't work with files other than moving them around. You work with applications or apps. So for example, if I wanted to edit a PDF, if I wanted to view a PDF, there's a PDF library document or app here called iBooks. There's a store and everything, but you can actually keep a library of documents on here, which is kind of cool. So, let's say I wanted to click on here and I can read it. Advantage to iBooks is it's got a nice reading mechanism, so you can do bookmarking and change all this stuff, and that's cute. But in this particular question, it was, well, I've got PDFs and PowerPoints because hey, I run a business and I need to use business documents. Okay, so if you notice, iBooks just sort of knew where those documents were. In the same vein, you might have something like a PowerPoint presentation that you actually want to edit. Or show. So I have an app called Keynote. Keynote is a presentation app built by Apple. There's also another one for Excel spreadsheets called Numbers. They're pretty good. Okay, but let's say I wanted to get a document over onto the good old iPad. Yeah, you can email it. That'll work. But if you cruise over here to iTunes, this is probably something you weren't aware of. This is my iPad. I've selected my iPad. Yeah, there's Wild's iPad. Of course, I got the 64 gig one. If I click on apps and I go down past my 1,000,005 apps, we can see a section called file sharing. So this basically allows me to send a document from my computer to that app. So that app will be able to read it. So if I click over here, let's say this Splunk app overview. I'm going to click right there, I'm going to drag it there, and instantly, boom, it syncs, and it's here. But where is it? Wait, I don't have a file browser, so, Remember, I sent it to the Keynote app. So if I go over here and load up Keynote, and I click Presentations, as I had one open before. Wait, where, wasn't it called Splunk App Overview? Nah, it's not there. So to get it off of the iTunes area, just click here. And obviously you can create. But if I click copy from iTunes, I hit iTunes. Boom, Splunk App Overview. Same thing there. It's there. Okay, so now I did this. I got one. So now it's going to import it. It's going to import it. It's going to put in Keynote's actual format that it can edit and view locally. And getting it off here is another story, which is actually quite easy. So you might want to consider also acquiring the Keynote app, and you might want to consider purchasing Numbers or even Pages if you want to do the editing and presentation and maybe even printing from here. So although there are other apps that deal with Office documents, I found that the ones that Apple make actually are quite good, and they're quite interoperable with the formats associated with Microsoft Office. So we'll just let this guy finish up its import, and it's importing it in here, and it's no longer on the network. It's stored on my iPad in this particular app. Okay, and of course you often do get font messages because certain fonts are only available on different computers. So that's fine. It'll substitute something like Helvetica. So let's say I click Splunk App Overview, and let's go down here to Agenda, for example. This happens to be about Keynote, the web monitoring company. But let's say he'll click here, and let's say, for example, I wanted to go and edit this. I can click on that, and of course we can bring this up, and we say, I'll just write the word cloud. Okay, cloud. And that's great. And if you want to play it, of course, you can click there and play it. And if you have Apple's little dock connector, you can plug that into a presentation machine, which is kind of cool. Okay, so we'll just click up here, double click. Now, that's great, that's all wonderful, but let's say I want to get this thing off of here. Just click on the little wrench, and of course we could click on share and print. So I have a printer that works with this, so if I go over there to the printer and I click on print, it'll print my presentation, which is kind of sweet. But remember, I could copy to iDisk or a WebDAV, we'll talk about WebDAV in a minute, or I click send to iTunes. Of course I could email it, but let's say I want to get it right back on my computer. So I click send to iTunes. How do I want to send it? A native Keynote, a PDF, or a PowerPoint? That's kind of cool. So if I wanted to PDF it and then upload it to somewhere, I could do that. But I'm just going to put it back in PowerPoint. And it's going to go zip, boom. It's converting it back to PowerPoint. As we can see, it's a different file extension because, that's how they write it. 10:27 a.m., 10:27 a.m. And of course, we could take and just drag this out of here. Boom, it's on there. And of course, I could open it up in PowerPoint and then edit it. Or do whatever I wanted with it. Okay, so that's fine. And that's just the native transfer mechanism that's built into our good friend iTunes. Okay, so that's okay. And of course, there's my presentation that I just edited, and I put the word cloud on there. So, but let's say I sort of want a library of things on my iTunes or on my iPad. That's probably what more business people actually might deal with. So there's a number of apps, many of them I've purchased, but there's one I really like called Readle Docs or Readle. I don't know, it was like $10 or I don't even remember. But Readle Docs is kind of cool because it lets me have a library of documents. Obviously, I got a resume of a person that works on my team. And I've got some locations. So I happen to use Dropbox, so I could copy things up from Dropbox if I wanted to. I have an FTP server up there on Splunk.tv. If I wanted to copy some stuff off of there, I could do that. That's cool. That's right. That's FTPing it. That's pretty sweet. And a few other things. But if I click on Documents, obviously I got a set of folders, which is cool. So if I wanted to, create some folders, I want to go ahead and move these things around, mail them, zip them all up. Maybe I want to zip all these things up and send it off to, a friend of mine. I can do that. That's really great. And of course, you might click on here, and it'll unzip and zip and things like that. So I like this particular app. It's cool. But check this out. I got to get stuff on here. One thing I really like about Readle Docs is something they have called Wi-Fi Drive. Okay, so I'm going to stop this app really quick. I'm going to go over and find out what my IP address is. How do I do that? Click on Settings. Wait, why are we doing this? You're going to see in a second. Click on Settings. Click on Wi-Fi. Click on SheeshNet, which happens to be... This should work over 3G too, as long as your computer is on the same network. Sheesh is the name of my chocolate lab. So, as we can see, my IP address is 10.0.1.21. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back to Readle Docs. And they have if I click on Settings, here we go, Settings. They have something called Wi-Fi Drive. When you install this thing, it will probably not be enabled, but just click on. You can ask for a password if you like. So, wow, how does this work? Wi-Fi Drive, that probably means that I can go over to my computer and, in a way, mount this particular file system. So watch this. There's an easy, how do I do this? Well, if you click on Wi-Fi Drive Help, depending on what kind of system you're on, maybe you're on a Windows machine, there's instructions on how to do this. I'll show you how to do it on the Mac. If I pop over here to Finder, okay, there's Finder. If I go up here and say Go, and I click Connect to Server. You probably never use this, but you click Connect to Server. And I just type in http:// and the IP address of my iPad, and watch what happens. Connect, okay? And since I didn't use a password, it doesn't really matter what I put in here. Well, remember, anyone else can connect to this as well, so you might want to put a password, but look at that. It's the exact same mirrored copy of everything that I have here. So now, in this case, I'm going to take that PowerPoint presentation, drag that thing on there. Copying. Boom, copying. So I'm going to take this PDF, I'm going to drag that over there too. And drag that on there. And boom, it shows up. So the cool thing about Readle Docs is nice because you can view things. So obviously there's just a design of a pool. And you got some options on here as far as search, text-based search if there are text-based documents. You've got some bookmarking and a few other things. You can highlight and copy, which you can't do inside of iBooks, which is pretty cool. So Readle Docs is a really nice app because it then lets you have this folder. And of course, since it has Wi-Fi drive, you can share that right on your particular computer, move things in and out of that as well. There are some other solutions like Dropbox, which will share things with the cloud, but this is offline. It's right on my computer, and I like to think it works fairly well. So hopefully that helps a little bit about dealing with documents on the good old iPad. See ya.